Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
All right. Yeah. So, I'll sit down for a minute.
Valerie.
Prabhupada.
Valerie Crumper.
I don't know. You need this a little closer so you can reach it. Is that better?
Today is the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So it's a special day to honor, remember, be inspired by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura and to serve his mission. So we're gonna have a special day, special morning class and discussion about Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So we'll start as we usually do to invoke auspiciousness in our gathering with divine mantra, the very first line of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyedacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. And the pranam mantras for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. The translation of that is offer my respectful obeisances unto Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa. So, there's one recorded transcribed lecture from Srila Prabhupada on the appearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I thought we could read, it's long, like it goes for more than an hour, it's like 18 pages in the transcription. So we're not going to get to all of it, but I thought we'll read some excerpts, and we can discuss the points and the principles there. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's in the chain of spiritual teachers. So Srila Prabhupada's guru, spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's biological father is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. And we have some direct, we just, Anasuya just led us in a bhajan directly from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jaya Radha Madhava. Part of it went in an evening program. A standard song that Prabhupada gave us is the Gora Arti, Jayo Jaya Gora Chanda, Arotike Shobha, Jahanavi Tatavani, Jagamana Loba. That's a Bhaktivinoda Thakur bhajan. Hundreds of songs, prolific writer. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's like really, really significant for so many reasons. It's quite inconceivable. So many reasons. And we'll discuss a few of them. And so just such a prolific poet and writer and philosopher. Even a thing like in our community, practically the only thing anyone knows is home programs. Right? So that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He created this very elaborate, genius, sophisticated system called Namhat, the marketplace of the holy name. And everyone has their place and position. He identified his places in the marketplace. He's the street sweeper, keeping everything clean. Because otherwise we can do programs. And that's, so keeping everything. So he just like sharing bhakti yoga. Like, you don't need to go to the temple. Now he was the temple president of a huge temple called in Jagannath Puri. Okay. So in this whole line, there's emphasis on home programs. Like in your home, gather 10 people, 20 people. And then if it's getting too big, then okay, then one of those 20, you start your home programs and this way expand in a snowball chain reaction. And of course, it's so vital that it's cleanly done. And our line also, there's also the temple worship. So like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who rejuvenated Krishna consciousness about 530 years ago, he didn't open any temples. He was chanting on the street, having kirtan in the basements of devotees' homes, discussing Bhagavatam beneath a tree, like that. Then his followers, the 6 Goswamis, they all established temples. So, so this is, it's all part of the mission. So Bhaktivinoda was quite an amazing visionary. Yeah, back in, if we just get to the scene here, back in like the 1800s, the scene was like, so India was a subjugated country, like Britain. England had colonized so many places in the world. He just said the sun never set on the British Empire, and it never rose in London, meaning it's a rainy place. So India didn't have independence. They were under British rule, and anything that looked Vedic or Indian was seen as very inferior. What's that? Primitive, yeah, primitive people. So, it's true. And so at that time, Bhaktivinoda predicted that there will come a time soon when people from all over the world will be studying Chaitanya Charitamrita. They'll gather together in Mayapur, India. And he said the Russians, the Americans, the French, the Germans, the English, and they're all going to be engaged in Harinam Sankirtan, chanting the names of Gaura-Nitai and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. All right, so and then of course through his follower, servant, Srila Prabhupada has manifested that. Here we are in Alachua, Florida. And that's the predictions. What's that? Excuse me.
It's Alachua County.
Alachua County. I stand corrected. Alachua County. Or is this the other side of the county?
It is.
Across county at 4 a.m. this morning. Prativichayatayada Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Prachra Hoibe Moranam. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya said that this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will be spread to every town and village on the surface of the planet. And as generations went on, most, they said, well, of course he means in India. But personalities like Bhaktivinoda Thakura, Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Prabhupada, they said, no, it doesn't mean India. It means Alachua County. It means California, Canada. It means Africa, Latin America. No, every town and village. So, of course, Prabhupada's made that happen. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah, so this Bhakti Yoga, it's universal, it's non-sectarian. And so, say like, okay. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very in the world. He had, actually, whatever it is, he had 14 children. Okay, so it's like, he's not like running away to the forest. Like, to be spiritual, we can't deal. He was the magistrate. He was a judge in the British court system. He was managing this huge temple, probably one of the biggest temples in the world, Jagannath Puri, like how many people they feed each day. So he was like really involved in management and money and court and jurisdictions and educating children and protecting children. And okay. And in his spare time, he gave like hundreds of books and poems, and he started the whole. We can't even list his accomplishments. If we spent the whole class, we couldn't list all his accomplishments. So he was very in the world, and he's a pure devotee in our parampara, in our line of succession. Not just a pure devotee. He has a special place. We're trying to communicate that. His son, who's the spiritual master of Prabhupada, is what's called a Naistiki brahmachari, which means he never had intimate contact with women. Okay, so he was.
He never lost women.
Yeah, never. Yeah, right. So he was. So that's like, so completely celibate his whole life, like that. And he was known as the walking encyclopedia. I mean, it's right. So the point is, and okay, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they're all great scholars. And Gaurkishore Das Babaji, another acharya in our line, he was illiterate. Now Prabhupada emphasizes, if he was asked any question, he would give the most amazing, nuanced answer. He had full realization of all the philosophy, but I think he couldn't even sign his name. Meaning, Krishna consciousness, bhakti, purification of the heart, full enthusiasm to serve Krishna with love and devotion. It's not dependent on you're in the family, you're renounced, you're a big scholar, you're illiterate. It's just like bhakti's not dependent on any of that. Okay. So, all right. So the lecture we have here, it's one lecture I have that I know of that Prabhupada gave on Bhaktivinoda, of course, up here. So this is London, September 23rd, 1969. And His Divine Grace Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Appearance Day lecture by A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. So again, the transcription, goes on for a while. So I'll read some excerpts and we can discuss. So Prabhupada writes. He speaks. He actually put Prabhupada speaking. So there is disciplic succession, and the acharyas, their authorities. Our process of knowledge is very simple. We take it from the authority. We don't speculate. Speculation will not help us to come to the real knowledge. Just like when we are in difficulty and legal implication, we go to some authority, lawyer. When we are diseased, we go to a physician, the authority. There is no use, speculation. Suppose I am in difficulty in some legal implication. I simply speculate. I shall be free in this way and that way. That will not help. we have to go to the lawyer who knows things, and he gives us instruction that you do not do this, then you'll be free. Similarly, when we are diseased, if I speculate at home that my disease will be cured in this way and that way, no, that is useless. You go to an authorized physician and he will give you a nice prescription and you'll be cured. That is the process of knowledge. But in the modern age, people think that I am free, I am independent, and I can make my own solution. That is rascaldom. That's not good. So Arjuna, when he was talking with Krishna as friend, but when he saw that there was no solution talking like this, he surrendered to Krishna. He said, Shishasteham, aham, myself, I surrender unto you as your disciple. Shishasteham sadimam tam prapanam. Prapanam means surrender. So that is the Vedic injunction that if you want to know transcendental knowledge or science, transcendental means beyond the scope of your direct perception. Welcome, Jim. Glad that you're here. If you could put yourself on mute. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Actually, just yesterday, Mother Molly and I, we were talking about the current link principle and how vital that is. Okay. So today we're special day to get to know Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Any day of the 365 days in the year is a wonderful day to hear from and get to know Bhaktivinoda Thakura. And the vital principle is we know Bhaktivinoda Thakura, our previous acharyas, through our current acharya, Srila Prabhupada. We know Bhaktivinoda Thakura through our current acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And otherwise, if we go to previous acharyas without going, because Srila Prabhupada is particularly empowered to inspire us in Krishna consciousness. And if we go, to try previous acharyas without going through our current link to the parampara, then we're apt to get confused. It can actually be damaging for spiritual life. Nothing about Bhaktivinoda Thakura or Bhaktisiddhanta or Sanatana Goswami is damaging. Just like, in a sense, they weren't talking directly to us. So we get what's essential for us from Bhaktivinoda Thakura through our current link, our current acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So, there's a text that Prabhupada quotes from the ancient Vedas. Shruti Smriti Purnari Pancharatra Vidivida Akantike Harir Bhakti Utpatayaiva Kalpate. So what that says, that even if someone's doing devotional service, apparently doing bhakti, but if they're not doing it in alignment with the Vedas, the Shastra, the Acharyas, the disciplic succession, the parampara, the current link, then even though it might be devotional service, it might look that way, it's more of a disturbance. It becomes a lose-lose. Okay. And actually, as we'll read on, we will read on, and we'll have an example of this from Bhaktivinoda's life that Prabhupada will talk about. So, this it's kind of like comfortable and convenient to say, it's like, well, all paths are one. Yatamata tatapata. That's actually a Sanskrit. All paths are one. Yatamata tatapata. Just like my understanding is, Lakshmi, Priya, and Marisa, you're going to be driving to Denver soon, right? Okay, so in driving to Denver, you could go I-10 west, but you could go Turnpike south. You could go I-95 north. It'll all lead you to Denver. You're doubting me.
No, just, that was me.
Okay, I'm not hearing so.
I was thinking of devil's advocate, but I don't really believe that. But I was just,
Okay. Now, what was your devil's advocate?
Eventually.
Eventually.
You go from
Yeah.
home.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, we can go to Denver through Nova Scotia. It's a possibility, right? It's a possibility. At the same time, it's just like, okay, for our goal is efficiently as possible get to Denver. Not all paths are one. Or you say, I'm just saying, like, because that can like feel good. No, it's all the same. What paths are one? Does that really make sense practically in the world? Let's say if I have food to eat, I could put it in my mouth, but I could put it in my ear or the eye. It's all one. You're doubting that. No, it won't be the same result. It won't be the same experience. Right? So I'm just saying, practically, it's actually a nonsense philosophy. But in the name of spiritual life, to support an urge to not have to think much. No, it's all one. Okay. So, or even let's say there is, let's say, a highway. Even that. Okay. Let's say truth is represented by New York City. Okay. So it says there's one. So we go I-95 to New York City. But even that, okay, everyone's on the path. Well, some could be on the path heading south from Georgia south to Florida. Some could be taking a detour this way. Some could be going 10 miles an hour. Okay. So it does matter what we choose. It's actually not all going to get us to the same place in the same way. So just like we read before japa this morning, we read some special bhajans from Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Like if our goal is pure, loving, devotional service to Sri Sri Radha Krishna, then there are certain. See, it's true. God is everywhere. Well, that's actually a true statement. God is everywhere. Now, how much realization do I have each moment about God, Krishna's presence everywhere? Well, actually, very little. So there is a truth to oneness. Now, there are certain actions, certain vibrations, certain habits I can cultivate that will support me each day of my life. Certain sattvic and transcendental practices and habits, just like everything in this morning program. There are certain habits and practices that will support me each day of my life to more and more realize myself as an eternal spirit soul and to realize the presence of God everywhere. Andantarasta, Paramanu Chantarastam, even in each atom. And there are certain habits and actions, rajas, tamasic, that will alienate me from realizing who I am as not this body, as eternal spirit soul, and realizing God's presence everywhere and the opportunity to serve God. So it's whatever I do, it's all one. No, there'll be different results, just like putting the food in the mouth will create a different result than trying to feed it to the eye. Okay. Well, they're both wholes. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference. So this is the science. These are distinctions. So there are habits in eating, in rising, in resting, in communication, in financial. There are habits in all areas of life that'll support us, in self-realization habits that'll get in the way. Okay. In one sense, it's required to make a whole lot of distinctions to come to the consciousness where we don't need to make distinctions because we're spontaneously, consistently realizing Krishna everywhere. So, okay. Now, Srila Prabhupada, in this lecture in London, 1969, he goes on and he says, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is an ideal guru. He was not a sannyasi, he was grahasta, householder, living with family, wife, children. Still, he was guru. So anyone can become guru. Not that only a sannyasi can become guru, a householder also can become guru, provided he knows the science. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi, very highly born in Brahmin family, very learned scholar. So he was talking with Ramananda Roy, Grihasta, governor of Madras, and he was questioning, and Ramananda Roy was answering. That means he was taking the part of guru. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking the part of a disciple. So he was hesitating, Ramananda Roy. He thought himself that, I'm a grahasta, I'm not even a Brahmin. Besides that, I'm dealing in material affairs, I'm a governor, I'm in politics. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi, born of a high-class Brahmin family, so it does not look well that I shall teach him. So he was hesitating. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, oh, why are you hesitating? He said, Kiba vipa kivinyasi sudra kene naye Krishna tattva veda say Guru Haya. He said, don't hesitate. Either one may become a Brahmin or one may become a Sudra. Kiba vipa kiba Sudra. Vipra means Brahmin and Sudra. Sudra is the fourth grade human being. Brahmin is the first grade. So Kiba Vipra Kiba Sudra. He may be a first grade human being or the lowest grade human being, or he may become a sannyasi or a grihasta. It doesn't matter. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna, he can become a guru. This is the verdict. Because spiritual science does not belong to the bodily platform. It is on the spiritual platform. It is very nice. Just like when you go to a lawyer, to an engineer, or to a physician, you do not inquire whether he's a Brahmin or Sudra, simply have to know whether he's a lawyer, that's all. Whether he's a physician, actually, if he knows the medical science, he may be a Brahmin, he may be a Sudra, he may be a sannyasi, he may be a householder, it doesn't matter. Your business is with a physician, with a lawyer. Similarly, your business is to understand Krishna. So anyone who knows Krishna perfectly, you have to go there. Tadviginartam sagurum evabigacha. It is. Vedic injunction is not that you have to approach a sannyasi or a grihasta or an Indian or American. No, gurum. And guru means who knows the science of Krishna. So guru, I mean, this term practically, for the past 60 years, even in the way the term guru, right? It's one of those Sanskrit words that like everyone has heard the word guru, yoga, karma, dharma. More and more people are knowing the word bhakti. I know when I grew up, I never heard the word bhakti until I encountered Prabhupada's book. But I did hear about guru and yoga and stuff like that. So guru means, so actual guru, according to the Vedas, the actual yoga scriptures, actual guru is one who is addicted to Krishna. That's it. How much the term addicted is a little tongue in cheek, because addicted to serving Krishna, addicted to remembering Krishna, addicted to chanting Krishna's name, then it means we're free from all the material addictions. Then we're free. Maybe all of us here could list our material addictions. We're not going to go there now. We'll do therapy some other day. Okay. But we can maybe list different material addictions. So and we can try to replace heroin with methadone or different things. But to really get at the root, to pull out at the root, tasmat sankirtanam vishnur jaganmangalam amasam matam apikuravya dija kantiki niskritam. Shukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit, Sankirtan, complete glorification of Krishna. This is the most auspicious activity in the whole universe because it pulls out at the root the desire for material activity, the desire for actions that alienate the self from the self. And he encourages Maharaj Parikshit, take this seriously because then others will take it seriously. So a true guru is one who's 100% devoted, serve Krishna with love and devotion, and to share that with others. So that's what we have in our line. I'm saying because in the name of guru, there's so much deviation and adulteration happen. Even within Krishna consciousness, there's so much adulteration happening. That's a disturbance, as we quoted before. So we'll hear about an example of such adulteration in the name of Guru and Krishna consciousness. That this is something else that Bhaktivinoda, as he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he identified his position in the Nam Hat, in the marketplace of the holy name, as the street sweeper, keeping everything clean. Okay, keeping everything clean. No adulteration, no deviation, no bluff, no deception in the name of spiritual life, in the name of Krishna consciousness. There's a lot of bluff and deception happening in spiritual life, even in the name of Krishna consciousness. Actually, I sort of knew I would talk about this theme today. And yesterday, I got carried away longer than I needed to. I was on the internet, and I was looking at different deviations in the name of Krishna consciousness, and I was actually like hearing the lectures and things like that, tasting it here and there, even going back to the 1980s. There are some videos. I'm not going to get into the details because I want to keep clean the Vyasa-san and like that. But yeah, just there's so much bluff and deception and so many people being fooled, even in the name of bhakti yoga. Okay, so that's why, we want to be rigorously following Prabhupada, including reading his books, so our intelligence is clear. Again, we're going to go into a pastime of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that illustrates this. So this is Srila Prabhupada speaking. So this Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Grahasta, very responsible officer, magistrate, and he was so exalted that he would come from his office generally at 5 o'clock and take his supper and immediately go to bed, immediately. Say at 7 o'clock in the evening, he goes to bed and he wakes up at 12 o'clock. So suppose he goes to bed at 7 o'clock in the evening and wakes up at 12 o'clock at night. It is sufficient sleep, 5 hours. One should not sleep more than 5 to 6 hours, minimize as far as possible. The Goswamis used to sleep not more than 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Sleeping is not a very important thing. Okay, great stuff there. Okay, got a comment on that one. Yeah, because there's a lot of emphasis on self-care and make sure you're taking and that there's so many letters from Prabhupada to his disciples, and he gets with some disciples, he goes, you're getting sick because you're not sleeping enough. You're trying to imitate Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the Goswamis. Well, you're not there. You're going to get sick, and you are getting sick. So self-care, all of that, this like that. There's Prabhupada was known to have said, like before he would go take rest at night, he would announce, now I'm going to waste time. Prabhupada's statement. Now, of course, Prabhupada's, for the pure devotee like Prabhupada, even in sleep, it's not wasting time. They're absorbed in how to spread Krishna consciousness and Radha Krishna. But yes, so it's a great statement. That's a real soundbite. Sleeping is not a very important thing. It's something not to do a bypass to that, not to artificially go there. Sure, because we want to care for our body, and we want to know intelligently what's the balance of sleeping and eating, for us, so that we can be enthusiastic, use our healthy body in Krishna service. Healthy body, it's a relative term. In one sense, the body itself is it's made of disease. I mean, it's an anartha, it's a covering of the soul. It's a superfluous covering of the soul in a sense. But anyhow, so of course we want to be, on that balanced growth edge in all areas of life. At the same time, to aspire towards that's the mentality of the clean-hearted devotee of Krishna, the truthful devotee. I'm so inspired, I'm so enthusiastic. There's so much service to do for Prabhupada and Prabhupada's movement, Krishna and Bhaktivinoda. There's so much service to do. Wish this body didn't need to rest. Okay, again, not to neglect the body, but that's the mentality, and to aspire to. And as we get more and more intention and energy and excitement and enlivenment in devotional service, and then actually in a organic way, then eating, sleeping, desires for sex, they actually do organically diminish. And it's actually true, because we're getting Vishaya Vinivartate Niraharasya Dana Rasabardhan Sopiasa Paramjishta Nivartate. We're getting the higher taste of the soul alive to its natural bliss that comes from serving Krishna with love and devotion. And then pleasures, superfluous pleasures, they just kind of fade away. They become less and less interesting. But Prabhupada speaking from realization, obviously. Even big politicians, they used to sleep for 2 hours. So especially in spiritual line, they should minimize as far as possible eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Minimize. Gradually, it comes to nil. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was eating only a little piece of butter every alternate days, not daily. So this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, regularly, he was coming from his office, and after taking his supper, immediately goes to bed and wake up at 12 o'clock and used to write books. He left behind him about 100 books, and he excavated the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, organized how to develop that birth site, Mayapur. He had so many business. He used to go to preach about Chaitanya's philosophy. He used to sell books to foreign countries. In 1896, he attempted to sell Life and Precepts of Chaitanya in the McGill University in Montreal. So he was busy, a chariot. So one has to adjust things. Prabhupada will sometimes, because like in one sense, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he wrote in many languages, including English. And he wrote a book, The Life and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya, in English. And he sent, I think he sent copies to universities around the world. One of them was McGill University in Montreal, Canada. And Prabhupada sees that as like the beginning of sharing the Bhakti Yoga movement around the world in English. And Prabhupada will sometimes say, that's my birth year, 1896. He sees a correlation there, like Krishna arranged that Bhaktivinoda sending to McGill University this English thing that was concomitant with Prabhupada's appearance in 1896. So he was busy. He was in a chariot. So one has to adjust things. Not that. So let's listen close here. Not that because I'm grahasta, householder, I cannot become a preacher. It's the business. It's the business of the sannyasi or brahmachari. No, it's the business of everyone. The whole world is suffering for want of knowledge. The present civilization is animal civilization. They do not know anything beyond eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. This is animal civilization. Animal does not know beyond these 4 principles of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. No, human life is meant for something else. What I am. What is God? What is my relation with God? What is this material world? Why am I here? Where I have to go next? So many things one has to learn. Attato Brahma Jigyasa. This is human life. Not that eat and sleep and have sex life and die someday like cats and dogs. Therefore, there is need of acharyas, teachers for propagating spiritual knowledge, Krishna consciousness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although he was a grahasta, householder, a government officer, magistrate, but he was acharya. So from his dealings, from his life, we should learn how one can become a preacher in any stage of life. It doesn't matter what he is. There was one incident, it's very interesting. When he was magistrate in Jagannath Puri, the system is Jagannath Temple is very big establishment. In the temple, 56 times daily, bhoga is offered. Bhoga means food offered to Krishna. And Krishna accepts the food, leaves the remnants. The remnants are called prasad. And you'll find in the temple always at least 500 to 1,000 people gathered. And they come from outside and prasad is ready. If you go and ask in the Jagannath temple that we are 100 men come from outside, we want prasad. Yes, immediately. Yes, immediately ready. So it's a huge temple. This is one temple, but there are many other thousands of temples where prasad is distributed. Now it is minimized by our present government. They think that it is unnecessary expenditure. They're minimizing. But it's not unnecessary expenditure. They do not understand. Formerly in India, there was no necessity of hotel. Anyone goes anywhere, even in a village, he goes to a temple, prasad is ready. There is no need of going to a hotel. You pay or don't pay. If you say that, I want a little prasad, yes, take it. That is the system still. There is the Natadvar temple in Rajasthan. You pay 2 annas only. 2 annas means 1 cent. You get sumptuous prasad for two men's All very nice prasad still. So prasad distribution in temple, it's a long-standing usage. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the Jagannath temple, is managed by a body, and it is the custom that the local magistrate of the district, he becomes the president or manager. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was manager in that sense because he was magistrate. The managing committee was being presided by him. So there was a complaint. There was a complaint. In Orissa, this Jagannath temple is situated in Orissa. That's on the Indian Ocean in East India. I was there in 1988, my first visit to India. That was my only time visiting Jagannath Puri. In Orissa, this Jagannath temple is situated in Orissa. Utkal, this state was originally belonging to Dhruva Maharaj. His son's name was Utkal, Maharaj Utkal. Anyway, so this Utkal, there was a pseudo-yogi. He declared himself that, just like you'll find nowadays also, there are so many rascals declaring that I am incarnation of God. And they know some mystic power, play some jugglery, and foolish people take them. Oh, he's God. So there appeared one like such pseudo-god Vishnu in a village of Orissa. And he was dancing rasa dance, and foolish people were sending their daughters and wife to dance with him, you see? Okay. So there was a complaint. And you say, this isn't, it's not like some minor funny thing. This is someone pretending to be Krishna, doing a rasa dance, and he's really exploiting and harming. So this is quite a severe, evil, wicked influence, actually. So there were so many. Not only that, people are so foolish, they do not know. They want to be cheated, and these cheaters come. He declared that I am God, I am Vishnu. So there were sane men also. They took objection. What is this nonsense? This man is dancing with ladies and girls. So they filed a complaint. At that time, it was British rule. They complained to the governor or the commissioner, very high officer. The commissioner knew that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his name was Kedranath Dat, Kedranath Dat, his household name. So the commissioner of the division, he knew that Kedranath Dat is a religious man and he's magistrate in charge. So he handed over the case for inquiry. What is this complaint? You please inquire and do the needful. So he was a pure devotee, and he understood that this rascal is a bogus man, cheating people. I must inquire. So he went to the village in plain dress with some constables, police constables. They were also in plain dress. And as soon as he approached that rascal yogi, the yogi said, oh, you are Kedranath Dat, so very nice. I shall make you king of India. Please don't try to bother me. Because he could know that he has come to inquire about my Ras Leela. So this person had power. He had yogic powers. And he was doing very nefarious, malicious things. So this, I shall make you king of India. I'm reminded, I don't know Bible so well, but what Jesus, when he went into the desert, he had 3 temptations, right? He had three temptations. And one of the temptations was the devil said, like, I'll make you king of the world. And so Jesus rejected it, but it's similar. Right? Similar, right? He offered to Jesus, I'll make you king of the world. So similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has no interest in such material pursuits or power, no interest in power and control, just wants to serve Krishna. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, first of all, said, sir, you are such a great yogi. Why you are in the village? Why don't you go to Jagannath Puri? There's temple and Lord Jagannath is there. Better you go there and see the Lord and be happy. Why you are in this village? Oh, Jagannath. So the yogi is speaking. Oh, Jagannath. That is made of wood. I am personally the Supreme Lord. That is made of wood. Then Prabhupada continues. Oh, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a devotee. He became fire. And then there's laughter. He was insulted. See? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he started trying first. Let's compliment him. You are such a great yogi. So why don't you be happy and go serve Lord Jagannath? He said, oh, Lord Jagannath is wood. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he became enraged at that. So let's continue this pastime with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he was a devotee, became fire. He was insulting. Arche Shila Dhira Guru Shu Naramati. According to Shastra, if somebody thinks, just like here is deity, if somebody thinks, oh, it is made of stone, it is stone to the eyes of the non-devotee, but it is personally supreme personality of Godhead to the devotees. It requires the eyes to see. So devotee sees in a different angle of vision. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he entered Jagannath temple, immediately he fainted. Oh, here is my Lord. And the non-devotee is saying, it is wood, a lump of wood. Therefore, to the non-devotee, he remains always as wood, but to the devotee he speaks. That is the difference. Primanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. If God is everything, why wood? Through wood and stone, God cannot manifest if God is everything. According to Mayavad philosophy, that's a fact. God, omnipotent, he can express himself even through wood and stone. That is God's omnipotency. That is called omnipotency, not that God is unable to express himself through wood and stone. And how he's omnipotent. Omnipotent means his potency can be expressed through anything. Because anything, everything is the expansion of God's energy. Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Tatedam Akilam Jagat. The whole world is manifestation of different energies of God. Therefore, just like through the energy of electricity, the electric powerhouse, although far, far away from this place, was expressing, there is electricity through this glass, through these wires, the power can be expressed. There's a process. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur became very much, because a devotee cannot tolerate blaspheming another devotee or God. So as soon as he said, why shall I go to Jagannath Puri to see the wooden Jagannath? I am personally Vishnu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur immediately ordered his constables, arrest him, arrest this rascal. So he was arrested. And when he was arrested, he had some yogic mystic power. All the constables, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his family members became affected with high fever, 105 degrees fever. So when he came back, his wife became very much disturbed that you arrested Vishnu and we're all going to die. We have now high fever. Bhaktivinoda Thakur replied, yes, let us all die, but this rascal must be punished. This is the view of pure devotee. So he was put into the custody. And there was a date fixed for his trial. And all these days, Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself and his family, especially, they were suffering from high fever. Maybe that yogi was planning to kill the whole family, but it was going on only as fever. So on the trial day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kedranath, when he came to the bench, the man was presented, the so-called yogi, and he had big, big hair. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ordered that bring one barber and cut his hair. Like Samson had his powers in his hair. And of course, Samson was a devotee of God. He got bewildered in different ways, Samson, with Delilah and the whole thing. But here, so this mystic power of this deviant mystic yogi was in his hair. Bhaktivinoda Thakur understood that. So he said, bring one barber and cut his hair. So no barber dared. The barbers thought, oh, he's a Lord Vishnu. If I offend, just as Bhaktivinoda and his family suffering from fever, so I shall also die. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ordered that, give me the scissors, I'll cut. So he cut his hairs and ordered him to be put into jail for 6 months. And in that jail, that Vishnu incarnation, managed to take some poison and he died. So this is one of the incidents. There are many incidents. He was a very strong man. He punished many pandas and tirthas who exploit visitors. Okay, well, so there's a lot there. I think it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'm glad to pause there again. There's not lots more reading we could do from this lecture. I have some excerpts directly from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings, but maybe if Any sharing, comments, questions at this time? Any realizations, comments, questions at this time? Hare Krishna. Welcome online, Valerie, Jim, Prampra, Rohini. Okay. Okay. Thinking maybe I'll read a few things from Bhaktivinoda Thakur directly. Again, he wrote in English, he wrote in Sanskrit, he wrote in Bengali, he wrote in Hindi, so in different languages. So we'll read either some direct English or English translation. Okay. So what do I have here? Well, okay. Here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. Well, this is actually a talk he gave. This is actually, he wrote a speech in English and delivered it at a place called Dinajpur. And his actual written speech is available. I heard it's one of the very few, actually like handwriting from Bhaktivinoda Thakur in English that still exists. Other languages there. So this is very long. We won't read all of it, but it's entitled "The Bhagavat: Its Philosophy, Ethics, and Theology" by Kedranath Datta Bhaktivinoda. And so it's an extensive speech. Now it's because earlier in his life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the past, he was against the Bhagavatam. Earlier, about half an hour ago, he used the term primitive. So, and there's excerpts in this book where Bhaktivinoda says, like, yeah, me and my friends, like, you know, we can imagine maybe they're 16, 17, 19, like young English trained scholars, intellectuals, you know, in their young adulthood. He goes, me and my friends, basically we're interested in like Western things. That's where the real sophisticated intellectual thing is, like that. And okay, maybe some Upanishads, but the Bhagavatam, that was seen as like fairy stories and just like, no credible intellectual will go to the Bhagavatam. He said he had a disparaging attitude toward the Bhagavatam. Actually, he got transformed. He somehow found, and it wasn't, he got transformed. He somehow stumbled upon the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He read that, his life was transformed. Then, of course, his whole life became devoted to serving the Bhagavatam, which just a little bit, 2 years before, he was like, Krishna stories, like that. So maybe we can just read a few excerpts from this. This is a speech he gave, and it exists in writing. That's why, like they didn't have tape recorders, but the writing exists. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we love, I'm clearly not a yogi. So, yeah. Okay, so he says, we love to read a book. Well, as the invocation, he quotes the third verse of Bhagavatam, Nigama Kapurvatura Tapdalitampa. We love to read a book which we never read before. We are anxious to gather whatever information is contained in it, and with such acquirement, our curiosity stops. This mode of study prevails amongst a great number of readers who are great men in their own estimation, as well as in the estimation of those who are of their own stamp. In fact, most readers are mere repositories of facts and statements made by other people. But this is not study. The student is to read the facts with a view to create, and not with the object of fruitless retention. Students, like satellites, should reflect whatever light they receive from authors and not imprison the facts and thoughts, just as the magistrates imprison the conflicts the convicts in the jail. So again, like we could spend a few days just on those few sentences, because this is quite a brilliant mind there. Intellect, well, transcendently
Making a
inspired.
lot of distinction.
What's that?
Making a lot of
Yeah,
distinction.
yeah. Like I want to inspire to read this closely again. Thought is progressive. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a radical progressive, of course, very rigorously conservative. And Bhaktisiddhanta Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada was quite radical and bold, and completely conservative in the sense of conserving the principles and applying them in bold and innovative ways. Now, if we're not very deep in the principles of bhakti and we try to apply them in bold and innovative ways, we'll probably make fools of ourselves, or worse, we'll not just make fools of ourselves, we'll do damage to others. So in a sense, to the extent that we're deeply realized in the principles, okay, then we get inspiration and revelation and realization how to apply them in bold, creative, innovative ways. So thought is progressive. The author's thought must have progress in the reader in the shape of correction or development. He is the best critic who can show the further development of an old thought. But a mere denouncer is the enemy of progress and consequently of nature. Begin anew, says the critic, because the old masonry does not answer at present. Let the old author be buried because his time is gone. These are shallow expressions. Progress certainly is the law of nature, and there must be correction and developments with the progress of time. But progress means going further or rising higher. Now, if we are to follow our foolish critic, we are to go back to our former terminus and make a new race. And when we have run half the race, another critic of his stamp will cry out, begin anew, because the wrong road has been taken. In this way, our stupid critics will never allow us to go over the whole road and see what is in the other terminus. Thus, the shallow critic and the fruitless reader are the two great enemies of progress. We must shun them. Okay, there's it seems to me there's another introductory paragraph, and then he goes directly talking about the Bhagavatam. Let's read the next introductory paragraph. Very stimulating. Devotional intellect. The true critic, on the other hand, advises us to preserve what we have already obtained and to adjust our race from that point where we have arrived in the heat of our progress. He will never advise us to go back to the point where we started, as he fully knows that in that case, there will be a fruitless loss of our valuable time and labor. He will direct the adjustment of the angle of the race at the point where we are. This is also the characteristic of the useful student. He will read an old author and will find out his exact position in the progress of thought. He will never propose to burn the book on the grounds that it contains thoughts which are useless. No thought is useless. Thoughts are means by which we attain our objects. The reader who denounces a bad thought does not know that a bad road is even capable of improvement and conversion into a good one. One thought is a road leading to another. Thus, the reader will find that one thought, which is the object today, will be the means of a further object tomorrow. Thoughts will necessarily continue to be an endless series of means and objects in the progresses of humanity. The great reformers will always assert that they have come out not to destroy the old law, but to fulfill it. Valmiki, Vyas, Plato, Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assert the fact either expressly or by their conduct. So very universal. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kedranath Das, continues. The Bhagavat, like all religious works and philosophical performances and writings of great men, has suffered from the imprudent conduct of useless readers and stupid critics. The former have done so much injury to the work that they have surpassed the latter in their evil consequence. So, okay, what I'm getting here. So the useless readers are those who have like no progressive thought, and they're just seeing the trees without the forest, and just kind of stagnant. There's no realization. And then the stupid critics who are in the name of being progressive and intellectual, let's reject that, let's reject this, let's reject that. So he's saying like, yeah, let's not fall into either of those pitfalls. And he's saying that the stagnant, useless reader who lacks any cultivation of progressive thought has done even more damage than the stupid critics. So this is a lot for me to meditate on, at least for today. The former have done so much injury to the work that they have surpassed the latter in their evil consequence. It's a heavy word, evil. Men of brilliant thought have passed by the work in quest of truth and philosophy, but the prejudice which they imbibed from its useless readers and their conduct prevented them from making a candid investigation. Not to say of other people, the great genius of Raja Ramohun Roy, the founder of the sect of Brahmoism, did not think it worth his while to study this ornament of the religious library. He crossed the gate of the Vedanta as set up by the Mayavad construction of the designing Sankaracharya, the chosen enemy of the Jains, and chalked his way out to the Unitarian form of the Christian faith, converted into an Indian appearance. Ramohun Roy was an able man. He could not be satisfied with the theory of illusion contained in the Mayavad philosophy of Shankar. His heart was full of love to nature. He saw through the eye of his mind that he could not believe in his identity with God. He ran, furious, from the bounds of Shankar to those of the Quran. There even he was not satisfied. He then studied the preeminently beautiful precepts and history of Jesus, first in the English translation and at last in the original Greek, and took shelter under the holy banners of the Jewish reformer. He's referring to Jesus as the Jewish reformer. Okay. But Ramohan Roy was also a patriot. He wanted to reform his country in the same way as he reformed himself. He knew it fully that truth does not belong exclusively to any individual man or to any nation or particular race. It belongs to God and man, whether at the poles or on the equator, means North and South Pole or the equator, has a right to claim it as the property of his father. On these grounds, he claimed the truth inculcated by the Western savior as also the property of himself and his countrymen, and thus he established the Samaj of the Brahmos independently of what was in his own country in the beautiful Bhagavad. His noble deeds will certainly procure him a high position in the history of reformers, but then, to speak the truth, he would have done more if he had commenced his work of reformation from the point where the last reformer in India left it. It is not our business to go further on this subject. Suffice it to say that the Bhagavad did not attract the genius of Ramohan Roy. His thought, mighty thought it was, unfortunately branched like the Rani Gunj line of the railway from the barren station of Sankaracharya and did not attempt to be an extension from the Delhi terminus of the great Bhagavad expounder of Naja. We do not doubt that the progress of time will correct the error, and by a further extension, the branch line will lose itself somewhere in the main line of progress. We expect these attempts in an abler reformer of the followers of Ramohun Roy. The Bhagavatam has suffered alike from the shallow critics, both Indian and outlandish. Okay, I'll give some context based on what I'm understanding, because like you might, well, what's he talking about? And that's again, Bhaktivinoda Thakura, he's not talking to us directly, but we're getting a feel. So Ramohan Roy, just like Prabhupada, in his early adulthood, he was a follower of Gandhi, right? And Prabhupada always appreciated Gandhi very much. And at some point, particularly in 1922, when Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada realized the limitations of Gandhi's attempts at reform, like that. So I talked about Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his young intellectual days, trained by the British. He rejected Bhakti because he was a follower of this Raj Ramohan Roy. So he's appreciating him. But now Bhaktivinoda has had his transformation, reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so he's saying that, so Ramohan Roy, he was an intellectual trained by the British, and he had the ideas like, okay, really progressive thought that's like through the British and the Western, that might be Marx, Freud, Darwin. I'm not exactly sure of the year, but you get the idea. Okay, maybe the American transcendentalists like Emerson and Thoreau and the Boston Brahmins and things like that. Okay, and then even in terms of spirituality or religious life, kind of like, because that was part of Britain and Germany, Germany, who went to India to give these barbarians real culture, real religion, which is Christianity, and real intellectual life. And so Ramohan Roy, he was a leader amongst the Indians, especially young intellectual university type Indians like Kedranath Dutt. Okay, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's saying here that Ramohan Roy, like he's appreciating his efforts, and Ramohan Roy was not attracted to Bhagavatam. There's other places where Bhaktivinoda describes actually his group was like disgusted by the Bhagavatam, like, oh, how could people really take this as serious, scientific spirituality? So he's saying that he's being empathic with Ramohan Roy, by saying like, because all Ramohan Roy got was either these stagnant, narrow-minded fanatics in the name of Bhagavatam. So who's going to be attracted to that if you're intelligent? Or he got these sahajias or the progressive intellectuals who would just, in the name of criticism and progressivism, they would just trash the Bhagavatam. Or the sahajias, like we read about this false Vishnu incarnation, who just made a perverted mockery of the whole bhakti thing. So who's going to be attracted to what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis said? Because the whole Bhagavatam, it's either fanatics or perverts or intellectuals who are just into trashing everything. Okay, and then of course Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's feeling fortunate. He got a real copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, so he's getting the Bhagavatam through Lord Chaitanya. Okay, so just give some context there. So he goes on. The Bhagavad has suffered alike from shallow critics, both Indian and outlandish. That book has been accursed and denounced by a great number of our young countrymen who have scarcely read its contents and pondered over the philosophy on which it is founded. It is owing mostly to their imbibing an unfounded prejudice against it when they were in school. The Bhagavad, as a matter of course, has been held in derision by those teachers who are generally of an inferior mind and intellect. This prejudice is not easily shaken when the student grows up, unless he candidly studies the book and ruminates on the doctrines of Vaishnavism. We are ourselves witness to the fact, when we were in college, reading the philosophical works of the West and exchanging thoughts with the thinkers of the day, we had a real hatred towards the Bhagavad. Strong word. That great work looked like a repository of wicked and stupid ideas, scarcely adapted to the 19th century, and we hated to hear any arguments in its favor. With us then, a volume of Channing, Parker, Emerson, or Newman had more weight than the whole lot of Vaishnav works. Greedily we pored over the various commentaries of the Holy Bible and of the labors of the Tattva Bodhisattva, containing extracts from the Upanishads and the Vedanta, but no work of the Vaishnavas had any favor with us. But when we advanced in age and our religious sentiment received development. We turned out in a manner Unitarian in our belief and prayed as Jesus prayed in the garden. So that was considered, like a type of religion amenable to intellectuals, like Christian Unitarian. Okay, so he said we had a hatred to the Bhagavatam. Accidentally, we fell in with a work about the great Chaitanya, and on reading it with some attention in order to settle the historical position of that mighty genius of Nadia, we had the opportunity of gathering his explanations of Bhagavat, given to the wrangling Vedantist of the Benares school. Oh, yes. So that would be Prakshananda Saraswati and maybe Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, like that. The accidental study created in us. So he stumbled upon Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya, could be Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya, all his teachings, it's all Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. The accidental study created in us a love for all the works which we find about our Eastern Savior. We gathered with difficulties the famous Karchas in Sanskrit, written by the disciples of Chaitanya. The explanations that we got of the Bhagavat from these sources were of such a charming character that we procured a copy of the Bhagavat complete and studied its text, difficult, of course, to those who are not trained up in philosophical thoughts, with the assistance of the famous commentaries of Sridhar Swami. From such study, it is that we have at least gathered the real doctrines of the Vaishnavas. Oh, what a trouble to get rid of prejudices gathered in unripe years. So he's describing so eloquently his transformation. He said they hated all the Vaishnava works. Like, this is like an embarrassment to our culture. To just like so now he's just he's
embarrassed by himself.
Yeah, right. It's like he's doing some confession. It's like a confession in a public speech. As far as we can understand, no enemy of Vaishnavism will find any beauty in the Bhagavat. The true critic is a generous judge, void of prejudices and party spirit. One who is at heart the follower of Muhammad will certainly find the doctrines of the New Testament. To be from a fallen angel. Okay, so I just thought we'll get to 920. Because this is, I think I'm going to read this whole thing today. Yeah, so you can see I'm very moved and alive. Any comments or questions at this time? Sharing, realizations.
That's interesting, because what you're reading now is kind of very highly intellectual. And then there is another side of Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing in ways that's so accessible for even us Westerners.
Yeah.
So it seems that he has such a flexibility in his personality.
He was complete.
Yeah. But like, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his writing is always kind of to be expected in the same direction.
Sure. Rigorous intellectual philosophy.
Yeah, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so malleable. Some of his writing is, in a sense, sometimes some of his writing is easier to understand than Prabhupada's purpose. They kind of directly touch upon the Westerners, and some of his writing is so highly evolved and intellectual, like what you just read.
Such diverse aspects.
Yeah, and I think his life is like that. Because, like hearing what you read and hearing what we spoke about his life, why it seems that, he discovered that he's a pure devotee, and it seems that he was born to have all those experiences in order to dissect them, and having that flexibility, having that ability to really connect and meet people where they are at. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So like on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance disappearance day, there's so many places we can go. And we read this lectures from Prabhupada. We could hear the lectures from Prabhupada about Bhaktivinoda. We can read directly from Bhaktivinoda. You know, we could, just spend days and days just reading and singing and chanting Bhaktivinoda's bhajans, which as you just read, those bhajans, it's like sometimes there's this like painful humility, and then sometimes there's this just like there's just this expansive ecstasy, you know, of the Atma in devotional love with Sri Radha and Krishna. And he wrote hundreds of bhajans. We can hear about his life. We can hear about his pastimes. We can hear from him. And just like, you know, we can hear such a subtle intellect. And simultaneously, like right before the class, Anasuya led us in Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. So it's such a simple song. It's such a simple song. And Prabhupada said, the entire spiritual world is in that song. It's all there. The cowherd boys, the gopis, Radha Rani, Mother Yashoda, the elderly gopis, the Yamuna River. And it's such a simple, just like four lines, a few words. And that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he's able to manifest such diverse moods in devotional service.
So colorful.
So colorful. Yeah. Thanks for that. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda ki.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
40th at my house for bhajan for ladies.